You know what? One of the things that I realized from casting a lot of viewer-submitted replays is that people at every single level of StarCraft 2 are simply just having fun playing the game. And while it may be a little bit stressful at times, and we do see, you know, some BMing every now and then, people get a little bit upset when they lose. Generally speaking, right, people at every single level of play that I've seen so far are just simply having an absolute blast trying out the craziest of craziest strategies. Now, I'm one of those guys, and actually there's a drone already moving out really early on into this match. We'll check that one out here in just a little bit. But I'm one of those guys that, generally speaking, right, when I really like a game, I will start jumping into it head first. I will start doing research. I will try my very best to get as much knowledge as I possibly can gather, at which point I'm going to try and become as good as I can possibly be as one. StarCraft 2, definitely not an exception in that regard. The drone actually apparently has made its way into the Terran's main base, but the Terran player did indeed catch that shenanigans as well. And maybe the gas will be stolen. Yeah, indeed, the gas does get stolen, but other than that, I think that Neostorm will be alright. But I'm one of those guys that, generally speaking, right, I jump head first into a game, and I will try my very best, you know, to become the best of the best. And I just absolutely love casting these games just because there are some crazy strategies that are viable in lower leagues that are not possible whatsoever in Master League and above. Now, speaking of which, I think it is about time we go ahead and introduce the players before I'm blabbering on and on and on. Spawning in the northwest corner of Abyssal Reef Alley, we've got the Zerg player who's currently in Silver League. He is known by the nickname of Neostorm, and his opponent spawning in the cross position, playing in blue, and currently attacking an extractor with a whole bunch of SCVs. That's not worth it. That's not worth it in the slightest. He goes by the nickname of Chilomac or Chalomac, and he is currently in Gold League. Now, indeed, like I said, right, those kind of things, I mean, if you do the math on it, attacking a Vespian geyser right that with a bunch of SCVs is not worth it in the slightest. It's much easier to just simply get a bunch of Marines out and shoot it down and go for a faster expansion. I was checking the natural right there. I did see a drone moving out across the map. I thought it was just about to arrive on the other end of the map. Speaking of expansions, Neostorm has put a hatchery on the other end of the map. I think that he wanted to do that with the first drone that he sent out as well, but sadly for him, he did end up getting spotted. Now, there are a couple of Zerglings now also in production. Neostorm currently hitting a supply block, not currently just now adding on a Roach Warren just yet, so I'm assuming here that this may be a Spinecrawler rush? Could be something along those lines, but regardless, I mean, this is going to be an interesting setup. Now, Chelomac, at least for him, it's going to be tricky because he has absolutely no idea about his hatchery that is very close to his main base. He's rallying the Marines very, very close to his main base, and instead of scouting, like, really early on, right, he has absolutely no knowledge on the map, and he's not left the safety of the supply depots just yet. Now, the Marines are moving closer to that ramp. I thought for a second that the depot might go down here as well, and he might potentially be looking to shoot down those couple of Zerglings. But shortly, the creep will start expanding, and if the Terran player in blue here is paying very close attention, he should be able to see the creep moving towards his base.
Add-on complete.
Add-on complete. Starport will now also be built. There's also an engineering bay already down. We see that single Widow Mine in production right now as well. Roach Warren eventually does go down, but the Terran player has now spotted the advancement of the creep, and while the Zerglings are desperately trying to kill that single Marine, his buddy's at his back, and they will be able to start shooting away at this hatchery right from the get-go. It just now finished up, though, and this is going to be rather tough. There's a lot of Zerglings reinforcing once again. Nice bit of micro there by Chelomac, trying to shoot down as many of these Lings as he possibly can. Zergling speed only just now started, so he's not going to be capable of surrounding these Zerglings very, very easily, or rather these Marines very, very easily at this point in the match. Single Widow Mine now out as well. We'll be able to burrow that one very, very shortly if he so decides to choose. There is a drone now indeed in production here on the other end of the map, so I think Neostorm is indeed looking, oh my god, that Widow Mine almost connected there, but I think he is indeed looking to start up a Spinecrawler on the other end of the map, and there it is, a Spinecrawler rush. Rather unfortunate timing right here. 4 minutes and 20 seconds is right the point at which this Spinecrawler goes down. Widow Mine does end up shooting away at those Zerglings. A bunch of splash damage was also dealt to the friendly blue units, but now that the Queen is out, the Roaches, or rather the Marauders now, however, are going to be able to do quite a bit of work, and I think that that Spinecrawler may very well end up falling. Second Marauder now also joining in, so that should be the end of this spine, but still, solid work so far by Neostorm, and actually, ooh, Terran player. Oh my god, the Terran player has decided to retarget right there. He could have definitely killed that spine crawler, but instead, he's going after the expansion. Once again, a bunch of splash damage hurting those marauders and marines as well. And while the Zerglings are desperately still trying to reinforce, the spine crawler is done right now. More and more drones have arrived on the other end of the map as well, so they're also being morphed into spine crawlers. And at this point, the Queen is target firing down. The medevac and the Zerglings are nibbling away here at the ramp. Siege tank out now, however, and that is of course going to be the nail in the coffin when it comes to defense, generally speaking. I don't think there's going to be a whole lot Zerg can do. Widowmine now also done with the charge, and indeed it will get the lucky hit off. 11 kills already. I was going to say that that siege tank was the one that paid for this really efficiently here already, but that Widowmine is really the MVP in this match thus far. Supply depot currently burning down, so that may very well indeed end up supply blocking here the Terran player, at least for the time being. But with 3 of these spine crawlers available at this point, this is going to be rather tricky. And I think that Chelomek may very well want to try and potentially put his siege tanks right over there. Right in this little nuke. I'm pretty sure with high ground vision or with vision over at the hatchery, I think he can start hitting that one with a siege tank, I think. But instead, he's adding himself another command center to this party, and he's gonna be capable of just simply making a lot more units. Putting a scan down there right now as well confirms that indeed drones are now mining from these resources. Of course, more and more spine crawlers can also go down, but instead he chooses to go for a spore crawler. A little worried, I guess, of any potential Banshee player, maybe even a Raven, to come out at this point in the match. But while I do think that the Zerg aggression here was reasonably successful, I think it will get shut down here, at the very least for right now. The Zerg player in red, however, if you look at this side of the map real quick, he is indeed adding on more workers. He's doing a good job at macroing out more and more units, but as far as economy goes, right, in particular once this command center gets landed, then he could even go for the 3rd base at this point. Neostorm actually checking that one out right now as well. Solid play right there by him. But once that command center starts dropping mules, this is going to be a very, very tricky army to try and control. Chelomek, though, not really advancing very rapidly here whatsoever. He's just, you know, killing any units that are desperately trying to reinforce all of those units. And once again, a bunch of Zerglings desperately want to die here as well. There we go. They do end up falling. But this is one of those strategies, right? Exactly like I was talking about at the earlier part of this video. This is one of those games that is not viable whatsoever at higher level of play, but it's so much fun. Going for a hatchery rush with a spine crawler follow-up, a good Terran player in Master League, he will notice that, or he will notice that and just simply out-micro you, and you know, you just sort of end up dying. But in Gold League, this is one of those things, or in Gold Silver League, this is one of those things that is just 100% viable. The roaches will pop out right now out of those eggs at an unfortunate timing, immediately being shelled away at by a bunch of these siege tanks from a distance as well. And while apparently the Marines are desperately trying to fight here for a little while longer, I think that is all she wrote here for the Zerg's aggression for the earlier part in this match. If you have a quick look right here on the other end of the map, Neostorm didn't get himself a lair, and he says, sorry about that. Trying something new. Excuse me, sir. And he immediately turns British apparently as well with my accent, but regardless. Excuse me, sir, I was just trying something new. I apologize for trying to murder you. I know this is a war strategy game, but like, excuse me. Didn't mean to. Now, Chelomek, in the meantime, while his opponent apparently planted down a spire, has indeed landed that command center. And there's this beautiful thing for all of the Terran units called the Mule. It's probably the best unit in the entire game. Now, come on. You've got the energy for 2 already right over there. You've got another bunch over here at this orbital command as well. There we go. There we go. And let's have a cheeky little look right now at the income tab. Keep an eye out on that while this drop is indeed making its way to the natural, because the Terran player will be skyrocketing in resources here very, very shortly. Now, a single siege tank was also brought over right there in that medevac. It's going to be really important to target fire that one down. Nice little engagement, actually. A couple of those Zerglings nibbling away at that tank. And oh my god, that hero Zergling, the last one to stay alive, just barely ends up killing that, and I think that may very well save this expansion. A single changeling now also pretending to be a Marine, while the others just barely did not make evac. apparently they do get picked up right there in the last of seconds, and I guess he may continue for a little while longer. But you can see immediately, right, in the supply counts as well as the amount of income and minerals that are available right now for the Terran player, that he was not quite expecting the amount of resources that those mules bring in. And currently, actually, he is a little bit, well, he's close to getting supply block here, but he's got to have to, like, ramp up that production. Desperately trying once again to, you know, do as much damage here with 3 Marines. Microing his ass off to try and get as much value out of those as possible. Needs to be careful, though. Can't really lose that medevac at this point, but I think that Neostorm will be able to deflect the counter aggression here from the Terran player in blue. Now, both players macroing up a reasonable amount of resources. 2 mutas will be able to come out right now as well. There is no missile turret available here whatsoever for the time being here for Chelomech, so he's gonna have to be careful. Finally putting down a bunch more depots after a couple of minutes of being supply blocked there. Ouch, not quite what you want to do. But apparently he did end up seeing, of course, that spire, and he will be able to build himself that missile turret. Couple of these, you know, SCVs not quite realizing that, ooh, there we go, they have to go to work as well. In the rear with the gear, they will be able to start gathering some more resources. And Neostorm, apparently satisfied with the amount of workers he's got, he's going for that 3rd base already. I actually kind of like this setup right now for Neostorm, though. He's going to be capable of getting a pretty solid army. He's already got himself some researches done as well in those +1/+1 upgrades for his Roach Ravager army. And actually, ooh, nice little bit of harassment there. Gotta hand it to him. While he's flooding some resources, he's doing a good job at harassing and slowing his opponent down. Now, so far, though, there is no denying in the strength of Marine Marauder Medevac. I'm sure we have all played games against Marine Marauder Medevac, as it is one of the most common strategies and one of the most common unit compositions for Terran players out there. And for good reasons, because it's very powerful against a wide variety of army compositions. Now, Neostorm does now see these 2 Medevacs moving out across the map. And in case he didn't, he is most definitely aware of it right now, because the Zerglings just simply are piles of blood at this point in the match. Now, Zerg apparently trying to make his way across here as well. A couple of Roaches and Zerglings now also trying to make their way towards this 3rd base location. And I actually kind of like this. I mean, really aggressive play. Neostorm has got the correct ideas here. While supply-wise and just simply unit-wise and the amount of stuff that he's got, he is behind. He's got a good idea of what he needs to do and how you can win these kind of games. He just needs to narrow down on the amount of workers that he's creating. Pushing back out of there as soon as he can as well, but apparently he realizes that those Roaches will be slowed down by the concussive shells, and he does decide to sacrifice them. At the very least, a bunch of them do end up falling. Couple of the Mutalisks now also trying to fly across the map. They did scout these double medevacs coming in here on the other end of the map as well, and I think that that 3rd base may be in some trouble. +2 missile going down right now, as well as the +1 armor upgrade here for the Mutalisk. But I think that Neostorm is going to be in a lot of trouble once he finds out what is going on here at his 3rd base location. Chelomech shooting down at those Mutalisks that were trying to, you know, do as much damage as they can there in the natural. And while some of the reinforcing Zerg units will be able to shut down a few of these units, I mean, they're mostly just soaking energy out of those medevacs. They've got no healing capabilities anymore at this point, but look at the amount of damage that Marine Marauder can do. Stimpack, of course, very, very nice upgrade. A couple of those units living a little bit longer than they were meant for, and eventually, just barely, the Marine Marauder force once again is victorious. At the same time, though, a bunch of Zerglings have made their way across the map, and this is some impressive play here for a Silver League Zerg. He's counterattacking. He's actually doing all the right things. He just does not have the amount of workers available to properly support his army. Now, speaking of which, doing all of the right things here is the Terran player as well. He's not taking any unnecessary risks. Instead of, like, pushing for the victory, he's just simply holding back, adding on another command center, ramping up that production. And while he has got a lot of idle workers right now in the main base, and he's most definitely not producing as efficiently as he could have been, he's also, strategy-wise, playing this very, very smartly by not taking any unnecessary risks. Neostorm retargeting right there on that weakened medevac as well. But once again, Marine Marauder does end up living for a long time, but just barely. After a little while, the Zerg manages to clean it up. Now, here's what I would like to see, right? From Chelomech, the Terran player here on the other end of the map. Transfer a bunch of the workers towards that 3rd base and start macroing. I mean, there's a great Aspire now on the way as well. Neostorm going for the standard Spine Crawler rush into apologizing for your build order, into counterattacking with Zerglings here constantly, and I think he actually killed quite a bunch of workers, there we go, into a 2-base Greater Spire. One of those strategies that I would say is not viable at higher level of play. Now there's 4 medevacs here, 2 of them filled with units, and once more, the mutants are apparently trying to make their way across. Roach Pete now also finally being researched, but I'm starting to wonder here if Chelomak has not just simply got too many units here. With some nice corrosive bios though, Neostorm can still potentially shut this one down. Great Aspire just about to finish up once again. The medevacs picking all of the units up and dropping straight into the main base, or at the very least it looks like that may very well be the option. At the same time, the mutants were harassing here for a little while, but Chelomak does get himself those missile turrets in position. Marine Marauders have now dropped off once more in the Zerg's main base. They're target firing down those evolution chambers, doing as much damage as they possibly can, and for the time being, the reinforcing Marine Marauder will only become more and more terrifying. Mutalisk picking up any kind of reinforcements. Once again, those are high-level moves. Those are the kind of moves that you have to make. But the thing is, you just simply don't have the drones to support all of this. There's just simply not enough, oh my god, not enough available to hold on to this aggression. Now, maybe just barely will he be able to defend against it. And look at that. Once more, he does end up trading very efficiently there with the Marine Marauder Bile. But, or the Marine Marauder Ball, rather. But I'm a little worried. Will there be enough Zerg here to eventually start dealing with the hefty amount of Marines and Marauders that are about to be produced? At the very least, that's what I think is going on here. Now, Chelomak definitely dropping the ball when it comes to macro. He hasn't really been producing a whole lot other than economy. He's been doing a good job at the economy wise, but I mean, he's got a lot of idle workers here, roughly about 20 or so, just simply hanging out in the corner of the map. But both players so very much so focused on trying to do as much damage. Bunch of Mutalists getting hit by those Ravagers, and a couple of Zerglings I think may have ended up falling as well, but the Medevacs are moving straight into all of those Spore Crawlers. A lot of damage is dealt, and Neostorm is actually picking up a supply lead. There's no way! He's picking up a supply lead. Well, that's barely, just barely not the case here. But he's actually doing a pretty good job. He's getting himself those Corruptors out right now as well. And that Hero's second Spore Crawler picking up 2 Medevac kills. That could potentially turn the tides here. I was already looking at this, assuming that the Terran player was going to be capable of picking up the victory. But the Terran player is dropping the ball hard when it comes to macro. He's got so many idle resources, just potentially, you know, or so many idle SCVs here, just potentially ready to gather resources here. But there's nothing. There's nothing happening there at that point. Or, oh my god, I can't imagine that. That's insane. Anyway, he's finally moving them over. 32 workers will be able to make their way towards this expansion, but right when the Zerglings arrive. This is as perfect of a timing for those Zerglings and all of those units to come in, and those units are going to be able to do so much damage. Look at them ravaging that mineral line. Those workers were idle for so very long. This was probably the only terrible timing to move them over towards that third base, and with so many workers ended up getting killed, this game may actually go in favor right here of the Zerg player in red. He's got himself those Corruptors out. They're out here somewhere. Yeah, there they are, hanging out in the corner. But I think that Neostorm may be able to pick this one up. That would be ridiculous. That would be absolutely insane. He's not quite morphing in the Greater Spire units just yet. I think he may have forgotten that he built that Greater Spire to begin with. But still, so much damage is indeed being done. The Mutas are now out on the map. They're trying to intercept the dropships. Did see them right there, but they completely bypassed each other. Trying to, you know, establish a bit of a peaceful era right here between the Terran and the Zerg. Third base just about to finish up here, but it will be forced to get cancelled. And with those mutas on the other end, I guess they're going to start harassing here. They're going to try and pick up any kind of reinforcing Terran units that are indeed available. Now, they did a bit of damage. They're going to be able to shoot down a bunch of those Marines here as well. But at the same time, the Marine Marauder army, with a bunch of medevacs, have made their way across the map. They're going to be able to do so much damage to shut down the last of this mining. And with a very even amount of army supply, as well as a relatively even amount of income, this could still be anyone's game. But the thing is, medevacs, they're supply-based, or rather, they're energy-based units. They're gonna be capable of healing up all of these Marines very, very easily. So technically speaking, right, on paper, the Mutalisk should easily end up falling, but still, there is very little production available right now. There are like no units mining here for really either of these players. And while the Brutalers are out right now, they're going to be capable of doing a lot of work. The Marines are desperately trying to shoot this one down. Broodlings are coming out here. They're picked up by the Medivacs just barely in time. And while the Medivacs will be able to get on out of there for the time being, Neostorm ended up losing the last of his tech. But while that is all going on, those Mutas are still dealing damage here on the other end of the map. They're trying to kill whatever they can. Now there's a single missile turret here in that natural mineral line that's really keeping Cello Mech into this match. The Broodlords will be able to hang there for a little while longer, while the Medivacs apparently have decided to pick up all of the units and bring them back to the safety of home. Now once more though, that income will go significantly in favor here of the Terran player in blue. Muta's just barely getting on out of there as well, but I think that the minutes are counted right now, or counting right now for Neostorm. He doesn't really have all that much anymore. He's still got 14 workers though, and with some properly hitting Banes, there's still a chance that this could work out. There are still Broodlords here as well that do make a massive impact here on that Marine-based army, and if somehow some way the Marines are erased from this composition, you know, the Mutas and the Broodlords would do so much work, but I'm starting to wonder if it is going to be possible. Still, this game is not over just yet. 48 army supply here for the Terran player, 45 for the Zerg player at this point in time. Zerg actually even a little bit ahead right now when it comes to the supply counts. Those Broodlords showing that single Marauder there who is boss, making sure that those Broodlings were indeed thrown at him, but apparently Cello Mech is starting to get a little bit cheeky. Noticing that the Broodlords are out on the map, he knows very well that they're super slow, and this is going to be a very difficult fight, but look at them. The Medivacs. They could potentially be intercepted. If they are being intercepted right now, this could potentially be the end of what she wrote. The Mutas are indeed trying to move in there, but shortly, all of the Marines will indeed start unloading. They're trying to do whatever damage they can. A bunch of these Medivacs indeed do end up falling. Once again, some nice bit of micro, but Stimpack, as well as those Marines, are picking up so many of those units. The majority of the Zerg's army is now caught on the other end of the map. 2 Vikings, now 3 Vikings, now bypassing those Broodlords, showing that they mean no harm. But I think that that hatchery indeed does get cleaned up, and while there is still one being built here on the other end of the map, and the Zerglings are once again moving here as well to intercept any kind of reinforcements and all of the SUVs here at that third base location, the Terran player is moving into the main of the Zerg, and it's starting to deal damage. He's starting to do a lot of work here, and this could be all she wrote. I mean, I've been saying that a couple times here already. I don't want to call the game early, but if all goes according to plan right now, right? There's no way that the Terran player can really lose. I mean, he's still got so much potential here for production. He's just really not producing nearly as much as he can. And while there is still a single hatchery here in the top right corner, I think that the reinforcing Marines are turning out to be a little bit too much. And I think that these may very well be the last roaches in this particular match. And Neostorm says, whatever, GG. And I think that he's going to leave the game. There we go. Cello Mech indeed does end up obtaining the victory. This is like a perfect example though on why I like these casts so very much. This is one of those things, it's just not possible. Like if you go higher up on the ladder, right, these kind of strategies are just not very easy to execute whatsoever. And usually it's more or less like a cheese. Maybe if a player is like playing a best of 7, right, and he's like 3-0 ahead and he needs to win one more game in order to obtain the tournament victory, you may see something crazy like this come out. But that's why I love the lower league casts, just because crazy matches like this one right here are possible. Now, if you've got a crazy match yourself as well, you can submit it to replays at LowkoTV. I'm in particular looking for matches played on the latest maps that recently got introduced with Season 2 of 2017. So if you've got games on those maps in particular, definitely make sure to send them my way. But other than that, I want to thank you for watching. Have an amazing day. Do not forget to smile, alright? And I will see you in the next one.